Welcome to Opening Bid. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Now let's make some money and hopefully get a lot smarter. Cool guest with me coming up next. Really cool. That's how I'm just going to put it. DataStax Chairman and CEO Chet Kapoor. Chet, good to see you. And you may be wondering why my sleeves are rolled up. At the taping of this episode, it's been a crazy day in the Yahoo Finance newsroom. Starbucks got a new CEO. That CEO came from Chipotle. So we've been running around all day. Things are a little crazy, but it's good to refocus and get a chance to talk to you about all things AI. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. And I expected nothing less, given when I opened the journal this morning. I was like, holy cow, Brian's going to be like super busy, hair on fire. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, well, actually, my hair on my head, it's actually painted on because I lost it all this morning. And what you don't see, because we're running filters over me, I'm actually sweating. No, I'm just totally kidding. Let's talk a little bit about you, Chet. Before we get going, I mean, you have a very fascinating career, but talk to me about DataStax. What do you do? Why do you do it? And where is your company at in its life cycle?
So let me start with where the market is, right? And then we'll talk about DataStax. There is no AI without data, right? And there is no AI without data at scale. You need a lot of data to do AI correctly and do it. You make it more relevant. There is no AI without unstructured data. There is no better technology in the world that does unstructured data than Apache Cassandra, which is the technology that we build and products we ship based on it. So that's how we think about our spot in the generative AI space. Is we provide the data. Now, what DataStax is really good at, that's where our heritage was. What we've gotten really good at is helping developers build generative AI apps that are 10x faster to build, to make it 10x more scalable, and then 10x cheaper. Every enterprise in the world is going to do generative AI. Every enterprise. It's going to become, having been through 5 different waves, this is going to be mainstream for everybody. And our goal is to make it easier for developers to build applications that change the trajectory of the enterprises that they work for. So that's where we are. We're a 200 million plus company growing very rapidly. We have a data modernization business. We have an AI business we have hundreds of POCs and customers in production. So we are definitely what in the Valley people would say, we are in the AI parade, and we are right up front in the AI parade.
Clearly, what you and your teams are doing, you're in the trenches. You're building a lot of really cool, impactful technology. But let's take a step back, Chet. Is this AI, and it's not just a you thing, I guess it's an industry thing, is it being ethically built?
Yes, I believe so. I think a lot of people are trying to do the right thing. So if you think about it, right, let's just take the web as an example. A lot of people had issues with security and things like that on the web, and said, my checks are never going to get cashed on the internet. HTTP will never be able to do it. Guess what? 20 years later, all of that's happening, and we're very comfortable with it. I think that's exactly what is going to happen with AI. We're going to have many issues, and the good news is that we're going to have issues faster than we've had in any other technology wave before. So governments are going to get more involved sooner, because this is the most human-like technology that we have ever done over the last 400 years, right? And so I believe that we are going to continue to make progress, and as a society, as a civilization, we will solve those problems. My concern is that there will always be bad actors, right? There's no tech. I mean, the web has bad actors, right? Mobile has bad actors. Look at the number of spam messages you get and things like that. The question is, can we move rapidly enough through all the different iterations of ups and downs to make sure that we get the benefit of AI as we move forward?
How impactful do you think AI is going to be? And 2 quick examples off the top of my head. I look at JP Morgan, storied global bank, investing billions of dollars in AI. I mean, I have to think, Chet, that it costs jobs in the research department, let's say at JP Morgan. I look at Intuit. Recently let go thousands of people because, and the company CEO mentioning that it's AI related. How impactful do you think AI is going to be to the way of doing work looking out over the next few years?
So, great question. Something that we obsess about, right? We keep thinking about this a lot. So, I think all companies, so first of all, this is going to affect everybody. All technologies have impacts on two different parts of the balance sheet, right? It's the top line and the bottom line, right? I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say, this is a cost optimization play, this is an efficiency play. Let me go off and use this technology to make that happen. That's obvious, right? Let's go off and try to make sure that I or you become more efficient. And because we get more efficient, we'll need less of you and me. And that makes perfect sense. But the really smart ones, and Jamie, I think, is a stud, are people like JP Morgan that are saying, okay, great, we know the efficiency play is clear. We won't get there in the next 6 or 9 months because we have to work out the kinks. We have to work out how we change our processes and how we do things because we are not going to do it the way we did it last year or the year before. But let's talk about the new business models that we can come back with and how we can grow the top line in making this happen. Let's take the benefits that AI gives us on efficiency and invest it in making that happen. And I think as companies do that, right, that is when as they reinvent themselves, right, that is when we will see the real benefits of AI. So I think a lot of people are going to say, it just makes it, this makes it cheaper. We give, we help the bottom line. But I think the really profitable companies over a period of time will reinvent themselves and say, how do I become a different company or a better company based on AI?
Do you think we'll see more companies do mass layoffs because of AI? Or is this something, Chet, where more AI slowly starts to embed itself inside of companies and it's a job lost here, it's job lost there, and it's something that maybe 10 years from now, company A has fewer employees than it does today?
I think it's the latter. I absolutely believe it's the latter. I mean, let's take an example. Let's take, history doesn't repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes, right? Mark Twain. Let's look at retail banking. What happened to retail banking? Were they mass layoffs? No, but over a period of time, a lot of the retail banks have actually slowed down and now they're resurrecting in a different way, right? Different kinds of services. And they are figuring out a way to make the P&L work for retail banking differently than it was before the web showed up. I think that's exactly what will happen with AI, right, as we go forward. And so we will see this happen again and again. A very good example, a very consumer-centric example is Google Maps, right? What is Google Maps today? Can you imagine your life without Google Maps as an agent? The answer is no.
And hell no. It's a hell no for me, Chet. I need that Google Maps. Are you kidding me? Don't take away my Google Maps.
And what do you think Google Maps is? It's an AI agent, right? It's one that you carry with you every day on this, right? And so we will have many more of those. So it's not like we've not done this before. And just to be clear, as an ex-Googler, Maps actually uses AI. It's been using AI for decades, right? And now it's going to use more of it, right? And so we'll see many more different things that show up in many different ways.
I had a guest on recently, Chen, and they told me that AI bots will, over time, and maybe within the next 5 years, become like a best friend to me. I said, no, come on. I mean, that's a lot of BS. I'm not going to emotionally connect with an AI chatbot. Where do you stand on something crazy like that? Or maybe it's not so crazy.
So by the way, don't go to the movie Her, right? I mean, that's the wrong place to go, right? But here's what I do think. I would love a bot that actually knows how I process email, how I process, not how you process email, right? And I would like it to customize how it does email for me. And I would like to take, it's a solid 15-20% of my day, and I would like to make that more efficient because 80% of my emails are, thank you, great job, what do we have, what are next steps, how do we go and have more impact, right? Those are all repeatable tasks. You get the context and you go off and make that happen, right? You have people around you that do that, but there's no reason why bots cannot do that. So I would love to do that. There are a bunch of other things like summarization, for example. We use that a lot. We use AI for content generation. So I would love to have more and more. For example, we run the company on a weekly cadence, and we take all the data that we produce on every different metric we have in the company, and we actually tell Gen AI to actually summarize it for us so it's consumable and give us insights based on trends.
I kind of feel bad emailing you. I didn't know you spent close to 20% of your day answering emails. Maybe I can retrieve that
Because
email.
that's how you run it, right? That's how you run the company. Because a lot of the because you're doing a lot through email, right? Because it's the communication mechanism, and having a bot help you with that would be awesome.
I would very much agree with you. 2025, what do you think the big story in AI will be?
First, the bad. There will be a couple of really bad examples of how people tried it and it fell apart. It will happen. It has to happen, right? Every technology that we've ever done, right? The printing press, right? Steam engine, just everything we've done actually didn't just work the first time we did it. So there will be some, oh my God, and all the naysayers are going to say, that really sucks, we told you. But I think we'll have a lot of really good examples of things like Google Maps that'll show up and change the way we live as individuals, right? And I think because we will be more productive and because we'll focus on things that are important to us as a society, I think we will see the benefits of that show up. So I think 2025 is definitely the year of AI production, right? I think it's going to be 24 and 25 where people will start seeing how this happens. And we're quite frankly, just to be clear, we're actually seeing that with customers today. Go to Priceline and go and check out Penny, right? Penny actually knows who I am, right? Penny goes off and says, I'm an AI bot. I know who Chet is. I know what the benefit, I know exactly what he likes and what he doesn't like. And oh, by the way, I'm also seeing what the deals are right now, and I'm going to match them. And it makes my travel experience so much easier as we go forward. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's good to hear good examples like that. Chet, hang with us. We're going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll be right back here on Opening Bid. All right, having a real fascinating chat here about all things AI with DataStax Chairman and CEO Chet Kapoor. Chet, before I jump to another topic, what's your sense? You're out there in California. What's your sense on the vibe around capital raises for private companies that are playing in AI? Has it slowed down right now compared to the start of the year, given all the concern about interest rates?
Yes, I think it definitely has, because there are a lot of companies, billions of dollars that was put into startups, and they don't have a lot of revenue. And through the hype, people went with ideas and people. Again, something that happens quite a bit. I think things have slowed down. But I want to be just, a lot of people think that this is going to be like, 2001. And I actually think it's not, right? NVIDIA is a multi-trillion-dollar company, but NVIDIA also has real revenue, right? They have a growth rate that is actually changing the industry, right? And so this is different from 2001, where there was nobody who had revenue, right, making it happen. So I think I don't think this is a bubble for the entire industry. I think there is a small one that you asked that is happening in early stage startups. I think some of that will get cleaned up as it normally does with every wave. This one's a little bit more hyped up, but I think it is actually changing. I do think with interest rates going down, I think capital will become more available over the next couple of years or the next couple of quarters. But I don't. I think people are going to be careful. I think people are not just going to focus on growth. People are going to focus on responsible growth. And I think responsible growth is going to come from customers actually putting technologies into production.
Chet, I always like to bring listeners and viewers of Opening Bid into my relentless process of finding interesting people to talk to. And I'll give them a little snapshot into you. So I was just scrolling on my LinkedIn page. I come across something. Chet Kapoor worked with Apple founder Steve Jobs, or co-founder Steve Jobs. Like, wait a second. I don't know anybody in my life that actually worked with Steve Jobs. Tell us a little bit about your story working with Steve. I mean, how did it come about, and what was day one like working? You worked at Next with him, correct?
Yeah, and so I should start by saying I was the person that got coffee for the person that made coffee. That person was one level below the person that opened doors, just to be very, very clear. But my journey started in Calcutta. I was born and brought up in Calcutta, and I was an avid reader, still am, and read a book called The Little Kingdom. For some of your listeners, they might know this. The Little Kingdom was written by a gentleman by the name of Mike Moritz, who then was a reporter at a Times reporter, and he went off and actually became the leader for Sequoia Capital, right? That actually created the whole web part. I read the book. I was very inspired, and I said I really want to go and work for Steve. I took a bunch of computer classes, came to the U.S. in '85, and continued to track. It was an obsession. Track everything that he was doing. He left Apple, started a company called Next. I was at Arizona State. They had a campus consultant program, and I applied for it, and luckily got into it. And that was the beginning of my dream coming true, right? I actually had a chance to listen and hang out with Steve as a campus consultant while I was going through school, and it was my first job out of college. It was not something it's not like, if Steve was alive today, he would not say he knew me, but he would acknowledge the fact that he saw me in the offices often enough, right? Everything that I've ever done in my career, I can actually take it back to what I learned and what I didn't learn at Next. And so Steve was a phenomenal inspirational leader, a lot to learn from, right? How to think about the user, be obsessed about the user, think about doing things very, very differently. His concept of, we want to promote people who are reluctant managers, right? There were so many things that I saw that I've incorporated into what I do, what I've done over the last 30 years. But there was also a lot of, he was hard, right? I mean, inspiration was there, but innovation is hard, right? I mean, it doesn't happen by saying, please go and do this. You actually have to, you have to push people, and generally you have to get them to a place where they will actually deliver on something they didn't think they could deliver on, right? And that is some combination of love and fear. I have chosen to go down the path of actually having a little bit more love than fear. There are many times I saw Steve use a little bit more fear than love, but it works for different people because we all have different childhood issues. And so, but the goal here is to actually inspire people to do more than they ever thought and lead them by the heart, right? And that is something that Steve epitomized every day, and because of that, changed the industry. And I'll just sum it up because I can go on and on about this. Is he always got up in the morning, I believe, right, thinking about what people needed, not what people wanted, right? And this is a very good example of it, right? It is not what they needed. If it was what they needed, we would be stuck on the BlackBerry, right? And we would be stuck on Nokia phones, right? This is a good example of bringing three different things: the iPod, an email device, and an internet device all together was something that people needed. And I think that is what I believe epitomizes what he's done for us as a civilization.
How did he inspire his team? Of course, you're on that team. How did he inspire people to unlock potential that they never knew they had? And it's more than, I'm a little bit of a leadership buff. It's more than people sleeping at their desks or thinking they're working very hard. Was it a question he asked? How did he challenge them?
So and again, I'm going to go back to the guy that got coffee for the guy that made coffee, right? So just be aware of that. But having said that, I think his relentless obsession for what people needed, right? He always focused on what does, and Next didn't start out, by the way, and I believe that Next bought Apple. Apple didn't buy Next because the Next leadership went off and ran Apple and made it very successful. And so, but the obsession was always with the user. What does the user need? Not what does the user want? This is the Henry Ford, right? Which is, you ask people what they want, they'll say faster horses, right? And he actually thought about a different paradigm to actually go off and solve their needs. So it started with, who are you doing it for? How do they live today? How will you actually change the way they live, right? And once you have that picture, then you have to use, that's the inspirational part. Then you have to use dates, personal motivations, personal relationships, and things like that, fear, whatever else you want to, right? To talk about, somebody else is working on it, competition, whatever else it might be, to actually get the team to move fast enough where you can get there. Because, just to be clear, working on technology that is deeply differentiated over a 5-year period doesn't make it much better, right? You have to take the time to build a good product, but once you have done about 80% of it, you have to go out to the market because you will learn so much more because the real innovation doesn't happen in the cathedral, right? It starts there, but it actually gets finished up in the bazaar. And I think Steve was very, very clear on how that happened on a regular basis.
Do you see another Steve Jobs out there in the land of AI? Am I just being too simple and saying is Sam Altman ChatGPT is some form of Steve Jobs for this generation of tech investors?
I don't think so. I don't know, Sam. Just to be clear, I don't think so. I think I will tell you what I do think has happened. I think Jeff Bezos, very different style than Steve. Have had a chance to spend some, like really understand him. Spend some time with Andy Jassy, and the obsession with the user and changing the way a company works was actually something that he did a fairly good job of. Right? He didn't come at it inside out. He came at it and saying, let's talk about what the buying experience is. And Amazon has always focused on that, whether it was at AWS or with Amazon. So I saw that happen. I saw that with Reed Hastings, right, on Netflix. How does a person actually use this? Why can't we give them a recommendation engine and make it a lot easier for them? So I've seen those things happen, but I do think there's a user obsession, and I keep using the word obsession, not as a negative word, but the focus on a user that's something that Steve bought on a regular basis. As I look around the industry, I don't think I see somebody who brings all of that together, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that I have not met or haven't seen, and they're doing a phenomenal job with it.
In the last minute we have, Chet, I always like to ask leaders what inspires them. You've been doing this for quite some time in all things tech. At this point in your career, what inspires you, and what advice would you give to the next generation of tech leaders?
This is the part of my life where I absolutely believe it's about making a dent on the universe, just a small little dent. And it's are you changing the world, right? And that's the part that I learned from Steve. Are you actually changing the world? Are you really thinking about it from a user's perspective, from a societal perspective, and going off and making that happen? That's what inspires me to get up in the morning, every morning, early in the morning, to go off and do this and still continue to do this. And so I love building product businesses that developers love, the products that developers love, and change the trajectory of the enterprises that they work for.
Chet Kapoor, great to get some time with you. Thank you for joining Opening Bid. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. This was a blast.
Thank you. All right, before you go, quick mention, do check out a recent interview we had here on Opening Bid with Warren Buffett's son, Howard G. Buffett. In that conversation, we talked to Mr. Buffett about why he's investing millions upon millions of dollars in Ukraine, of course, as they fight that war against Russia, and really some of the best investing lessons his legendary father, Warren Buffett, taught to him through the years. That's on a recent episode of Opening Bid. You can watch that, of course, on Yahoo Finance or check it out on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Take care.